This is my granddad, my mum's dad.
Hi Ed, I think you want to ask me some questions about the war.
How old were you when the war started?
Well, I was just 3 years old. To give you some idea, that's a picture of me. That's me, with my mother and father and my brother. When the war, just before the war started. And that's me with my brother and my father wearing our tin hats like the soldiers wore in the war. So that was taken during the war because I was about 5 or 6 then. Okay?
Did you have an air raid shelter?
Yes, we had an air raid shelter. It was down the bottom of our garden. We had a long garden, and at the bottom was an air raid shelter which was half buried in the ground, like this one. So you had to get down into it, and half of it was on top and covered in earth, and the other half was buried. When the air raid warning went, we used to go down there, usually in the night, in the dark. So we had to use torches, and we would all clamber in. And there were bunks in it, but we didn't really sleep in it. We just sat on the bunks.
What do you remember about the war?
Well, of course, I remember gas masks, and because we were so small, because I was only 3 when it started, first of all we had what we called Mickey Mouse masks, because they had this little nose on the front. And so we had those, and then when we got a bit bigger, we had proper gas masks, and we had to take them to school, like these boys here, they all had them on their desks in school, in the carton, and we used to be like that, in case we ever needed them. They had to be ready for us to use. And this one, there's a lot of children practicing putting them on, because you have to get used to putting them on quickly. So there you see them all lined up, having a practice with their gas masks. They look a bit funny, don't they? Great big eyes. They were all hot and clammy and sweating to wear, so they weren't very comfortable. You wouldn't want to wear them for a very long time. And the other thing I remember is school milk. Because food was in short supply, we used to have a bottle of milk in school every morning, like that. And because in the winter it was very cold, and usually the milk would be frozen so you couldn't drink it. So we used to put it on the top of the radiator. So we'd have a big crate of milk, and we'd take all the bottles out, we'd put them all along the top of those big radiators, those big, like that, so that by the time it was break time, it would be melted and you could drink it. And then in the top were milk tops. There would have been a little piece in there. You poke that in and you put your finger out to take the top out. When they were dry, we used to play a game with them. We used to play milk tops. So you'd have lots of dried milk tops like that. And you put them between your finger and thumb, and you pitch them out. And then the other boy would have them, and he'd pitch his out, and he'd try and get them on top of yours. And if his landed on top of yours, he would win it. You'd see who could win the most milk tops. Like that. Just flicking them along the ground, and then see who could get the most.
What did your parents do in the war?
Well, my father worked in a factory which made bombs. Some men were called up and had to go in the army and go and fight. But instead of going to fight, my father was sent into a factory, and he was helping to make bombs in the factory. And my mother just stayed at home and looked after my brother and I, because we were only small. Because my brother was 2 years younger than me, so we were quite small. So my mother was just a housewife.
Did you dig for victory?
Did we dig for victory? Well, my father had an allotment, and he used to take me up his allotment on the back of his bike. I can remember that. He had a big old bike, and we sat up on. And there was a seat on the bar, and I used to sit on the bar, and he'd ride to his allotment, which was a couple of miles away. And he used to grow lots of vegetables there. But in our back garden, where the air raid shelter was, all along one side, we built cages to put chickens in, and we kept chickens, so that we could have some fresh meat when we killed the chickens, and we had eggs as well. So that was what we did towards Dig for Victory.
Were you evacuated?
No, I wasn't evacuated, but Grandma was evacuated because her house was bombed. So when her house was bombed, she was evacuated to live with her aunties in a safer place in the Welsh valleys where they didn't have any bombing. But because we lived in Cardiff, which was a port with ships coming in and important place, then there was a lot of bombing in Cardiff.
What was food rationing like?
Well, because I was so small, I don't really remember much about food rationing, but I do remember that we couldn't just buy sweets. We had to have coupons for sweets, and the coupon meant we could have so many ounces of sweets in a month, and we used to wait for the new month to come so we'd have a new set of coupons and we could buy some more sweets, but it was very few. You couldn't buy many. And the other thing that we did, because we didn't take sugar in our tea in our family, we could take our sugar to a sweet factory and they would give us sweets in exchange for the sugar. So when my mother had a spare pound of sugar, we would take it up the road to this factory where they made sweets and give it to them, and they would have a pound of sweets instead of the sugar. But I don't remember very much about it. I do remember that we had to queue for bananas, which was not very often when they came. And it was probably after the war that that happened. And I remember too that when we were in school, we used to have food parcels from America. And that was a big thing. And the teacher would share those. And again, it was sweets for the children and cocoa powder, what we would call drinking chocolate, which you could make a drink out of. And the Americans used to send that to the schools because we didn't have much food.
Is there any more interesting things about the war you can tell me?
Well, we lived on a main road through the centre of Cardiff, and it was on a junction, so it was a big space of road in between the junction. And in that space, they used to park this big, like a big boiler with a big funnel on it. And in the night time, we would send up lots of smoke to make a smoke screen over the town so that the enemy couldn't see us. So if there were any lights, and of course we had blackouts, all the windows were blacked out, we couldn't show any lights. If there was any light showing, the enemy wouldn't, planes when they came to bomb us, wouldn't be able to see them because all this smoke was going up from this machine, and lots of machines like it all over the city. And then as well as that, we had barrage balloons, great big balloons up in the sky, which meant that the enemy planes couldn't get very close because these were up in the air where at the height they needed to be when they were dropping their bombs. And I remember being taken by my father too to see the guns, because we had anti-aircraft guns, ACAC guns we used to call them. And there were big searchlights which would light up the sky, and these big lights would be sweeping across the sky, trying to find the planes. And if they found the planes, then the guns would fire at them, and so all the guns would be fired. I remember seeing that when I was quite small as well. Is that all you wanted?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you for asking me. And if you want these pictures, then you can take those to school and show your friends.